Hey everyone, Donelle and Megan here today. We're gonna just wait a little bit more, let everybody get on. Hope you're enjoying the music. We've been having fun in the quilting studio, so we just decided to start with a little bit of celebration music here. Love seeing all of you out there from literally everywhere. Looks like some of you are even watching in groups. That's a great thumbs up. So tonight we're going to be doing some random quilt blocks. And when I say random, I'm just basically talking about we're going to start with a square and we're going to show you how you could quilt it. But first of all, I wanted to show you my finished, yes, I said finished project. And I know several of you have posted on Westalee by me that you have finished one too. And so this is what we started last week. I'll just kind of move it slowly so that you can see that we were doing some of the circle sewing with decorative stitches and then doing a quilting design within that and not necessarily centered, as you can see here. It's a lot more fun to do some random stuff now and then. You can see one up there. Along the edge over here, I use my small clamshell to fill in that edge. And then over here, I use the circles on quilts to make circles around that design. And you can see if you look real close here, there is a design here in the center. And then over here, I just felt it needed a little bit more, but not necessarily a big little bit more. So I just put in the spinning wheels 36 where I didn't use the pen and I used the point as the rotation. So then down on the end, as I started last week before we ended, I did just some cross hatching with the 1 inch, showing you how I set it up with the crosshair square. And that's on both ends. I just love this fabric. And then on the edges, I bring the back to the front. And so this is just part of the back that was brought around to the front. And so what I want to show you is how I do that, because I promised that last week. So I have a little sample over here that I can show that to you with.
We got some ladies that are even joining us as a quilt retreat.
Awesome, awesome. Where are you guys retreating at? I'll be there by morning, maybe.
It's in Ohio, so it's
oh,
actually
we
close.
could do that. That would be cool. All right.
Just go join Carla in her group.
All right. Well, this is how I do this. And so this is a tool that I designed. So I'm going to show you. This is the tool. It comes with complete instructions. It's called the Quick Easy Mitered Binding Tool. And as you can see here, I have left extra around the edge. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you had something that you needed to leave 1/4 of an inch so you got a perfect point, you would leave an additional 1/2 inch of batting. But this one doesn't have a point or anything. In other words, if you had a half square triangle that came down here and when you turn this around, you don't want to lose your point, you would leave an additional 1/2 inch of batting. But on this one, I don't have that. So I have left 1.5 inches. So I just took my rotary cutter and cut 1.5 inches away from there. Now this has been used many, many times as a demo, so I've got some stragglers there that need to be cut off. But what I next do is I go to the ironing board and I press in so that that 1.5 inches is now 3/4 of an inch. In other words, I just press it up to meet the outer edge. And I do this all the way around. Once you've done that, then you're going to use the tool. And you can see that it has a square on it. Let's do it this way so you can see that. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay that square down on the corner of the quilt. And I'm going to draw across this way. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my Frixion pen and draw that. So you can see that line across there. And then right in the crease of where you have already pressed, and this is why you want to press first, you put a mark so that you know where the intersection is of those two lines. And so now I'm going to take this piece and fold it back on itself. So that I have it like so. And then I'm going to take a straight pin and I'm going to put it through that intersection right there where those two lines cross and go straight down. Now if you have a very smart pin, it hit the spot, but mine's obviously not very smart. So I have to back it off and take it out and put it back in where it's supposed to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that down completely flat so that on the back it's flat like that, so that then I can just pop it back up and lay it down. So when I stitch this part right here, I am going to be able to get right to that spot on each side. Now I'm going to be stitching starting in the center, coming to the pin, then coming back to the fold and coming back to the middle. This side with the open part does not get stitched. So once that's done, it's going to look like this. So you will have stitched this half from here to here. And then you're just going to cut off, leaving 1/4 inch, and then go across the corner there, which I've already done. So this is what it looks like. So you've got the corner cut at an angle, you've got that 1/4 inch there, and then Megan, if you want to hand me that point turner, it's right there. So then what I'm going to be doing is I just take my point turner and gently push that out, and then this all lays back in just perfect, so you have that perfect miter. Now when you're finished pushing that all in and pinning it down before you're ready to stitch, it's going to look like this. Put your pins in this direction, and then I use a very narrow zigzag stitch around that edge. I need that to show them the zigzag. And so the zigzag is very forgiving, and it allows you to have a nice edge there. If you wanted to hand stitch, you could, but the zigzag works perfect. And the reason I say that is if you use a straight stitch, it just might push your fabric ahead, and then you get a little bubble there. So this is something that is very simple to do. I do it on almost all of my placemats, small wall hangings, table runners, things like that, because it is so fast to do. Now I've shown you other ways. One is a way that we have done where it's kind of a facing type of a turn, and that works real well too. So if you're interested in that, these are available at your local quilt store. I know they sell them all around the world. If you can't find one there, just email me and I'll get you set up.
So Barbara wants to know, that was a raw edge. I think you actually cut yours, right? The edge before you turned it.
It was, I had like 4 inches and I cut it so I was only leaving 1.5 inches. So like here, this is 1.5 inches. And then this just gets turned in, and then that turns in like so. And so the reason I said, with this being 1.5 inches, if you had 1/4 inch here, like you had a half square triangle, you would want to leave an additional 1/2 inch of batting and then 1.5 inches. So that when you turned it into the batting and then turned it in, it would not cover up your little 1/4 inch. And you can do it small like this. Instead of 1.5 inches, just do 1 inch. And then you'll have just a 1/2 inch showing here. So any way you want to do it, it's just a real easy way. That tool takes all the guesswork out of it. I devised that tool back in 2005. And it's still a great seller. So
just to clarify, Linda says if you have added that 1/2 inch of your extra batting to preserve your point, like you were just talking about,
correct,
you would then have to cut the backing an extra 1/2 inch wider as well.
No, you would just measure out from the batting an 1.5 inches. We measure the backing out 1.5 inches no matter what, away from either the quilt or the extra 1/2 inch of batting.
Okay.
So, hopefully that helps answer those questions and how we did that. And I think this is going to be pretty fun tonight because I'm just going to show you how you can do some designing for quilt blocks. Now we've already set up some, like 4 of them here. I've just had Megan draw off some 8.5-inch squares, and we're going to do some designing in these. Now you could always sit down and draw all this out ahead of time. I basically just went on the internet and looked at some photos, some pictures, to see what they had out there of some quilt blocks, and we're just going to try and imitate those. And so the first one that I'm going to do, we're going to start with, let's see here, what did I say the first one? We're going to start with first doing a square in a square. Now this is pretty simple, and if we've got this all measured right, we've got an 8.5-inch here, and so what we're going to do is we're simply going to mark 8.5, half of 8.5 is 4 1/4. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to put a mark right here. Oops, I need my...
Right here it is.
Okay, I'm going to put a mark right here, and I'm going to do the same thing on all 4 sides. So we're going to get a 4 1/4 line there. We're going to get one up here, and one over here. Now, I'm going to show you something, and this is why I like this centering ruler. I could simply have done this by putting 4 1/4 on this side and 4 1/4 on this side, and there's my 0, so I could have marked it. So that's why I like the centering ruler. I want to show you a traditional way, but then I'm going to show you that this is what I normally do. I just put the 4 1/4, the 4 1/4 here, and then right there in the center is my spot. So it just makes it a whole lot easier. Now, I'm not going to stitch the outside square on this, at least not yet. I really don't see a reason to, because that would be like it was a seam there. So we're going to start at just one of these spots. And interesting enough, we're going to be able to do this whole thing without stopping. So I have one start and one stop point. So I'm going to pull up my thread. Get a hold of that bobbin thread. Well, what happened here? There we go. Put my needle back down in place, and I'm going to stitch from one spot to the other. Now I know you can't see it. I'll try to reposition it there. It's right down here that I'm coming to. So I could use my 6-inch, but I've got stable tape on this ruler, so I'm just going to use that. And I'm going to use my spacing gauge. So right down here at the bottom, right there, I'm measuring up with that spacing gauge. And the thing is, I'm going to show you out here where you can actually see it. We always want this flat side. Now this is the way it looks if I laid it down. I'm talking about that side there. That's what you want to touch your ruler. So if you notice down there, you can see that I'm kind of at an angle off of my drawn line. And that is very important to keep everything like it's supposed to be. So I'm stitching to that point. I'm going to slow that machine down. I'm going to simply turn, and I think you can see it better right here. I'm turning it to its side so you can see it. That's a much better speed for me. And then I've got to go up to this point, and I normally would turn that so I could see it better, but I'm trying to do it so you can see it best. And then when I go back to this back line back here, I'll turn that just a little bit so you can see. And basically all I'm doing is allowing for the space of my foot. Now once I get there, you can see I've got a square and a square. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 6-inch spiral, Now I'm using the 6-inch spiral because I have it. You may not have it. I may not have it. There it is. This is what it looks like. And so what I'm going to be doing is, well, I'm not going to use that one. Let me see here what I got. I may have to use the other one. Yep, we're just going to use the basic 12-inch arc. And so what I'm going to do, that arc is the same anywhere, but if you're looking at it, I'm going to try and put it so that it's centered in between on my square. And actually that line lines up pretty much perfect. But it doesn't really matter where we are here, even if it's a little bit curved. What matters is we want to get right back down to this point here. And so I'm going, can they see that?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to stitch from that point. And we'll stop there. We're going to turn it. Do we have any questions while I'm doing this?
I don't have any questions yet, but we did have a bunch of loves just a moment ago, so I think they were excited to use this ruler for some things.
And we're going to come right back, but we're still not finished. And this time, because I work better with my ruler in my left hand, I'm going to turn all of this around, so I'm doing the same thing, only on the inside.
Joyce says, you make that look so easy.
Well,
Practice, right?
it's pretty easy, actually. This is one of the fun ones.
So Barbara wants to know what that ruler is. That's your 12-inch arc, right?
This is my 12-inch arc. That's the basic ruler. It's got a straight side and it has the curved side. And this is the one that comes with the foot. And if you don't need a foot, you can purchase it separately by itself. And when I say don't need a foot, it means your machine has one made specific for it. So really all I did was find the center of each side and do a square and a square. And we're back to where we started. And this could stop here, or you could put a design in the middle. I'm going to show you how I finish this off. I've raised my presser or my needle. I've raised my presser foot. I'm pulling this back just so I have a long thread. Go right back in there, and this time what the purpose is to pull up the bobbin thread. So here's my bobbin thread. I'm pulling that out. Giving that a snip, giving my top piece a snip, and then when you see I've got 5 threads here. Not counting that one, I'm going to go underneath, and just so you can see, there's one that gets pulled back out of there. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie 2 and 2, a knot. Do that twice. And then I'm using my cinch side threading needle. All those threads just went right in there. And now I'm going to just go right beside where I tied the knot and go in between the layers of my batting. There we go. And pull that through. And I'm going to be very careful not to pull the knot through until I can show you. So there's my tails, there's the knot, and I just pull it into the fabric. And then I just kind of pull this up so it scrunches a bit, so when I cut I don't have to be right close to my fabric, and the tail goes right back inside.
Kim just ordered herself some of those needles, so
Good.
she's excited.
So this is what your design would look like. In my opinion on this one. This one is finished. Like I said, you could come back and put something in here, or maybe this is where an embroidery is or is going to be. Maybe you're going to put some initials or something like in there. But that is how quick and easy something like that is. And in that case, all you really needed to use with this basic ruler that comes with your foot. Of course, you could do a lot more. You could even come in here and put a square and a square. You can do as much as you want with that. But that was what the block looked like that I had a peek at on the internet. So we're going to do another one here that's going to be kind of similar to that. And what we're going to do with this one is we're going to start again by using that square and a square concept. So I'm coming down here because these are 8.5. So I'm putting 4 1/4 on either end. And here's my 0 point. So I just make a mark there. And the reason I like to do this is, let's say it's not exactly 4 1/4. Got to get it where I was. Let's go this way so you can see it too. If it's not exactly 4 1/4, you can kind of scrunch, move one way or another, and then that makes it still centered with you not having to deal with small fractions of something. So there's that one. Here's my 4 1/4 here. Ooh, perfect on the end. Megan did a good job of drawing.
Thanks.
I wouldn't even have had to measure that because it was already where it was on the other one. All right, so we've got that. So we're going to start with our square and a square. This time I'll use this one so that you can see that. Again, I'll just put my needle down here. Get my spacing gauge. If you've not seen a spacing gauge, they're usually clear. Mine is this color so I can show you while we're teaching.
I have to laugh because somebody already asked that, and that's the exact words that I used.
So you can see this down here, and I'm going to put that against. If you guys don't have plans for Halloween, we're going to be here. And
We're going to have a party.
And we're hoping that you will be planning to join us. We know what we're going to have fun with, but we don't know what we're going to do, if that makes any sense. I can't tell you what the lesson's going to be about, but I can tell you how the party's going to go. You won't want to miss it. All right, so we've done another square and a square right there. So that's what that looks like. And so this time we're only going to do that little fun piece in the inside. So I really don't need any more marks, and I don't have to stop. I'm just going to go in like this. And the thing you need to remember is your templates are simply nothing more than a piece of acrylic to stitch beside. So you can use it any way you wanted. If you had an oval that was big enough to fit in here, you could use half that oval to do this particular shape here. So a lot of times all I'm doing is pulling out templates and seeing if they got the shape that I want anywhere on them. Now when I ask where those scissors went, you guys remember they fell to the back, okay? So next what we're going to do on this is we're going to take this piece. Nope, I'm going to use something different. This time we're going to use this piece. And this is my 6-inch arc. Now I'm going to give you a secret, everyone. You have that same shape in your sampler set. So I'll use both so you can get an idea of how those can be used. Now I know it's in here because I just checked it.
Well, while you're looking, the big question so far is, where can they find the centering ruler? Where can they order it from?
The only place that you're going to get that is at my website. or maybe your quilt store carries it, but it's not distributed by anyone. They would have gotten it from me. I know several stores that do. Stores that I've taught at. If I've been to your store teaching, like Country Stitches in East Lansing, Michigan, or Sew Orchid in, I believe it's in Maine, the state of Maine. There's several stores that have them because I've taught at their store. So the block I'm working on right now is this one. This is a 6-inch arc. You may have it, but if you don't, it's the same as your 6-inch spiral. The reason I like to use the 6-inch arc is simply it has more marks on it. But I could use the 6-inch spiral also, and I'll do that so you can see it. So I'm going to go to this side first, and I have to pull it back so that I end up right in this corner. And I want you to see that is a direction like this. So when I put this down to the side, you can see what direction I'm coming. So my needle's in place. I've allowed for that, and I'm going to come right over here to that spot. I'm going to turn, and I'm doing the same exact thing. Do you see how that is? There's space there. Looks like I'm going to come down into the next block. I'm not. I'm going to be right in that spot. I'm doing the same thing here. So when you look at your templates, sometimes you have to kind of envision them in different ways. Right here, I'm allowing that 1/4 of an inch. Again, it looks like, oh my goodness, she's going to stitch out into that border. No, right to that spot.
Some of our Canadian friends want to know, can they get the centering ruler sent to them?
Yes, and I'm trying to think. I just talked to someone today who's going to have those. If you're on here, whoever I talked to, it was a store, make a note so that people will know how to get in touch with you. Otherwise, I'll have to put it out there later. So here's a sample of what happens when you don't have enough space. And I'm trying to find my piece that is my little one that I use. Oops, didn't mean to hit you guys. Megan, just go cut me another one. Here it is. All right. So I probably showed you guys this something a couple of weeks ago or whatever, I don't know, but this is just a piece that I've cut off. And so what you can do is you can just set it up beside there. Make sure you got batting. This over here didn't have batting underneath it. It would be the wrong height. Just set that up beside there. And then, well, it'd be a good idea to get the right measure. You've got something to hold on to, and you'll be able to get right back to that spot. So it's just a way to make it so, because before I had more stable tape out here on the edge and it wasn't really working. So the other thing I'll tell you, if that strikes you hard at first, I showed you a couple weeks ago, sometimes I tape that piece, just use some of my tape and tape it right together just for a temporary. And now I don't need it anymore because I'm back on fabric. And I'm going to get right back to where I started. Now I'm not finished yet, but here's what we're looking like. You can see what that's looking like.
So that's, the beginning techniques are very similar to the first one. It's just how you did the edges, right? The corners.
Right. Just making a little bit of a difference there.
Cool.
And then the last thing on this, I'm just going to cut this, but I would normally tie that. But the last thing on this is to find the exact center. So I'm just going to use my long ruler here. And then I'm going to use my crosshair square. And remember, you don't have to make these marks, you know, the whole length of it. You just need places to line them up. And so what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to use one that I've not used in a class before. And this is an oval. So you can just get an idea of a different shape. I think this is the right size. We'll know here in a minute. So we got our needle down. Pull those threads up. And the only reason I just put 4 is I'm only going to put 4 ovals in there. So yeah, this looks like it's going to be perfect. I love that. And the reason I say this is going out and it's going to be like 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. I love the simple shapes. There's so many things that we can do with them.
Excited because the ones you are using are ones that they've had and they just don't know how to be creative with them other than what
that's
is kind
the
of
whole
obvious.
idea, because a lot of times it's just a matter of finding a picture and kind of just copying it. There's nothing wrong with that whole concept there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and open this so that you can see it. And then I'm going to do something a little bit different so you can see what that looks like. So I could stop right there. And that's why we have these puzzle pieces, so that we can take them out and get out. But then I'm going to go and I'm going to put a smaller oval. And I'm not sure until I get it in there whether I'm going to put it between the ones that are there. It's a brand new template, you guys. Or whether I'm going to put it inside the ones that are there. So let's see here. Between would be pretty cool. So if I'm going to do between, I've got to get my line from my needle to the corner here. So you can see how I'm doing this with everything still set up. And this is exactly what I do. My ruler is up against my needle, and I'm coming out here. Megan, can you pull the camera out so they can see where I'm lining up?
Yeah, just a minute.
So right out here at the point is where I'm lining up, just to get that one little dash there to know where it's centered. So from my needle, I'm right beside my needle, lining that up. So even with my template in place, I can still do this. All right, so now that I've got that done, we're going to line this up, and I'm lining it up on the other side. I'm going to go back and just do this side also, this way here. Pull those threads out of the way. And just so you can see, right there's my line. I'm getting it right between where those cross over.
Barbara would like to know what stitch, not what stitch you're using, excuse me, what weight of thread you're using, because she loves your stitches.
I'm using 40 weight. I use a lot of 40 weight, and this happens to be a 40 weight polyester. Now again, guys, I'm just cutting my threads off. I'm not taking the time to tie them, but I want to get them out of the way so that you can see. And there's what that block looks like on point. Something I didn't line up right because I don't have the same thing right here, but you can see, would I take that out? Probably not, unless it was going to be judged. I've never had anything judged that I've quilted anyway. So I'm not going to worry about it, but you can see how we did just very simple tools, very simple block, but very interesting also. So that's a fun one to do too. I'll probably just take a picture of these and upload them when we're done so that you can see what it is. So you can, maybe have an idea there. That way you'll know what we did in class.
What size was the small oval again?
The oval that I just used here is from the Simple Oval set. And there are 3 in it. This is the Simple Ovals template set. This one is 1 by 2. This one is 1.5 by 3. And this one is 2 by 4. So that is called the Simple Ovals set. So I just wanted to show you a couple of different sets there. All right, so now let's see. I've got one more that's pretty fun, that kind of along this same line, so I'm going to show you that. And again, guess what? It's a square and a square to start with. So 4 1/4. We got a pattern going here. I got my measurements down.
So our Australia friends want to know, is there a distributor out there that has these rulers, or are we shipping out that way?
I know there are several places that sell the rulers in Australia, and if you're not for certain where they are, I'm sure that if you contact Sew Steady, because these obviously originated in Australia, so I know there's places there that, and if there's no one there that sells this particular ruler, we just need to get in contact with somebody and get them going on that. All right, so we've got our square or our half points here, so I'm going to go ahead and we are going to get our template and we are going to stitch this. We've got kitty cats in our quilting studio, and tonight they can't decide where they want to be. In and out, in and out, in and out. So square, and a square. And I will tell you, if you've not invested yet in having a nice big sewing surface, please consider getting a wish table. Obviously, it's the one that has the nice big blue drawer. You can also get the giant wish, which is about 7 inches longer to the left. And of course, the advantage of the wish table, as I showed you last week, is you can do the circles. Now you can get what's called the circles and straights tool and still do the circles. But if you're still trying to sew on a small table, it becomes kind of hard to do these things that I'm showing you here.
So Millie wants to know, is your machine that you're using right now on regular sewing, or is it on something else?
I have mine set for a straight stitch. This machine has a ruler work setting, so I have it set for ruler work. But if you don't have a machine that sets for ruler work, you're just going to lower your feed teeth, get yourself a ruler work foot, and like I said, leave it set for straight stitch, lower your feed teeth, put on a glider. You can see I've got a glider here. Make sure you've got a nice smooth surface, and then you will be able to do ruler work.
So Lillian asks, she's loving all of these ideas and wants to know, have you drawn these out, or are you just flying by the seat of your pants?
I am not flying by the seat of my pants tonight, Lillian, believe it or not. I found some ideas that I kind of sketched off that I saw on quilts that were actually just on the internet, and I wanted to see how to do some simple blocks. Now this particular block, I am going to be doing a 1/2 inch inside of the original. Now I find it's easiest to start on a side when I'm doing that. And if you've never done this before, what I'm doing, this is going to be a learning session for you too. What I'm going to be doing is I'm not putting this on the edge here. I'm going to the first etch line on the template. So I'm bringing that in so it's on that line. And I'm also lining up down here. Anyway, you can go in closer for just a second on them.
I will try.
Okay, perfect. I'm lining this up down here on the line because I need for my needle to stop right there. That's a 1/2 inch because I want to do a 1/2 inch. Now, just starting out, I might just take the time to draw that little line out there so that I can stop when my needle is right there in that line. So I'm going to start here just randomly on the side. I could start in a corner. That would not be a problem either. But I kind of like to start on a side, and it depends on what you're going to do next. What I'm going to do next has nothing to do with this. So it's not going to be connected, it's going to be stopping anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my needle down. I'm going to stitch up to that line with the needle in the line. And before I go any farther, I'm going to turn this and test. I've got just, can you see that little bit of distance? I've got just a smidge, like 1 stitch more to go, and I don't want to go any farther, so I'm going to be very careful. Actually, I'm just going to turn my hand wheel by hand and move it. And now I'm lined up. So now I'm going to turn again. You can see when I put this up against there, I'm right in the right spot. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line up down here, and just because I want you to see what you would do just starting out with this, we're going to stitch down here till the needle is in that line. I'm going to test it. Ooh, got it. Turn this, line this up. Again, down here, put this 1/2 or this one line right on that edge. That means there's where I need to stop. I like to show things like this because I want you to see how your tools are your best friend. Now right back there you can see I've got like 1 stitch to go. So I'm just going to move that over, and I'm going to take my hand wheel and bring it up and back down. It's hardly even a 1/2 stitch. But I've got this on the line there, and I'm going to mark that, and that should line back up with where I need to go there. So when I turn this, get my threads out of the way, see if I've got my 1/4 inch here. And now I'm right back to where I started, and I'm going to pull this thread up so you can see I may even have done that twice, so I'm not sure, but
I have 2 questions for you whenever you're ready.
I'm ready right now.
Okay. I don't understand this one, so it might just be in the language and meaning.
Why don't you just read it to me?
What brand DSM do you have that has ruler work setting? I don't know what DSM is. So I don't know if she means what brand of machine.
This is this one particular here is a Janome, and it's the M7.
Okay, so Dee responded. She said she's looking for a new machine and likes the idea of a ruler work setting. So I think she's looking for suggestions on what machine to get.
I would say email me and I'll be happy, or message me, inbox, whatever, and I'll be happy to give you some things to think about. And obviously I have sewn on about every brand out there, and maybe I can help answer some questions for you. So I wouldn't, I'm not promoted by any particular brand, and so it wouldn't be right of me to start answering individual questions, but I can tell you different things. Now right there's where we merged, and you can see, as I'm afraid to pull it too much tighter. There we go. We've got that so that it's down in there. I think I can pull it a little bit tighter, and I'm going to leave my threads a little bit long so I can do that later, because I don't want to break that. Come on, I know it can go. I don't want to break the thread. So anyway.
We have another one. I think we've got some long arm quilters on who wants to know, are these 1/4 of an inch thick?
Our rulers are made in 3 thicknesses, so you can get them to fit, are able to be used for a long arm. And so when you're purchasing templates, I'm looking for the height, the foot sheet that's always in here but doesn't seem to be.
Let's go over here.
So anyway, if this happened to me and I was really doing this, I would probably pull this back out and put it closer, because when I put it in the hole, I obviously didn't get it close enough for that knot to go in there. But anyway, all right, here's thicknesses. So you can see we have long arm templates that are 1/4 of an inch thick. So when you order templates, like when you go on the site to order, you just select which thickness, low shank, high shank, or long arm. And so yes, these work for long arm. All right, so I got kind of sidetracked in that. We're not going to worry about that one little spot there. So you've got a square and a square, and I showed you how you can use your foot to do that with using the lines on the ruler. Now what we're going to do here is we are simply going to be creative with our clamshell template. So our clamshell template looks like this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go around the outer edge with this clamshell. And I want the first one to be centered right here. Well, that kind of comes into where we're at with what, you know, what this looks like. So I'm going to make sure that I get it right down on that line, because as you can see right here, I'm going to be right at that very edge. So I'm going to start right here in the middle. Needle down, needle up. Oops. Well, Donelle, can you tell? There we go. All right. Needle in, lined up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to put this line right on the corner. There's a line that goes up and down in your clamshell, and I'm putting it right on the corner. So where this is, if you needed it, you would go ahead and you would put a line here that is straight. Now I'm going to put it there so that you can see what I'm actually doing, and then I'll put it there before I get to the next one. So you can see that that's straight, and we're just simply putting this straight up and down in that spot. Now if I've done this right, it should be the exact measurement to get 3 to the next spot. And we're going to pray here that it is, because I'm just looking at a picture. I've never done it. And while we're doing that, I'm going to put this in here and get this straight.
So we did have a question. What's that marking tool that you are using?
I am using the Clover, what's called the Clover Choco pen. You can see it kind of has a dolphin tip. I emptied out the chalk that's in there, and I put in Pounce iron-off chalk. All right, so I'm coming back here. I want to put this in place. Oh, you guys, look how lucky I was. It's almost exact.
Let's say some of your people were out there praying. They gave us those prayer emojis.
Good. All right. Now, here's the deal, you guys. We're going to get it exact by stopping at the top of the first and moving this over. So now it's exact, right where we want it. And we just continue on. And this time, I'm just going to make sure I'm straight on my line, because I got to get clear to the other side. And then we're going to turn. I'm going to use that straight line again on my big side here. So it's straight on there. I'm going around that corner and stop on the line.
So Lillian wants to know if you have any tips on how to hold this ruler, because she says every time she does the big arc on that clamshell, she falls off.
Okay, so basically it's just a matter of, I'll show you here in just a minute, but if you notice, this is where I started, and I've got a little bit of adjustment to do that's more than the last time, and I don't want to do that all in one time, so I'm going to scooch this over just a smidge, come down, go to the top, scoot it over a smidge more, go down, come up to the top, and finish that final scooch, which was hardly nothing, and then continue on. Needle down. Oops, I forgot to draw my line, so I'm going to get my straight edge here. Get it straight to that corner. There's not enough room for me to get in there to draw. Here we go. There. Whew. Let's draw the last one before I get to that spot. You see how I'm doing this? Maybe you can't. Let's go over here a little bit and I'll turn it completely. So right here is where I need to be. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this line and lining it up on one of the lines that I did for the square and lining it at the point there. And that will be straight. It's a geometry thing. Okay. Remind me, I'll show you about how to get used to sewing with this, so hang on a second. I'm going to go over. Oh, that would be bad. Last one. Line up with that line.
They're liking the big clamshells in the corner.
Okay, so we're going to call that one finished. So you can see what this looks like. I think you can see pretty much the whole thing there. Now, to the question that was asked about what would we do, how would we work with this to get so you didn't fall off, and I totally understand that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my foot down and my needle down anywhere here. And the way that I teach people to get used to this is to put that needle and foot down, but then flip your template over so that the stable tape is on top and just practice moving like this, back and forth. And believe it or not, just practicing like that helps you get the feel of what it's like, because I know what happened to me the first time. I was out here and way away from my template. So if you get the feel of this, this is called muscle memory, and this will help you to get the hang of how to do this. And do the same thing on the other side. I've had people, I flipped it over, I've had people that have never done any of this, and they do this about 6 or 8 times, and surprisingly, their first time, their first pass, when we set the needle in motion and start moving it, they just do it just like they've been doing it forever. So it's one of those things that surprisingly a little bit of practice with what we call getting used to it by muscle motion or muscle memory really does work.
And when you did that, you flipped it over so that the
so this doesn't catch on
right.
my, yeah, I've got my stable tape up so it doesn't catch. But again, you could put a design in the center of this like we did over here if you wanted to, or this could be like this one where you had an embroidery or whatever inside there. So a lot of fun things you can do. Let's see what else I've got over here.
Well, while you're looking, I had another question. If we have some out there who are long armors and they have machines like with the low shank, do they have to get both sizes of templates?
Right, because a low shank machine will only use low shank templates, and a long arm still hops. So if you tried to use low shank on it, they would hop up on the template. So that really wouldn't work. So yeah, that's a great question though. All right. So while I'm looking here, oh, I know what I wanted to do. Okay. Here's one we're going to do that's really easy and a lot of fun. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a 4 patch right here. So if it's 8.5, got our 4 1/4, and there's our center. So I'm going to just make this a 4 patch block.
One of our friends out there just got a Juki and wants to know, can she do ruler work design with her Juki as well?
I'm sure she can. I've got a Juki. I don't know if it's the same one you've got, but mine is the one that just does straight stitch. And it's like called a TL 2010 or something like that. And
Hers
yes.
is a DX7 is what she said.
Okay, I'm not familiar with all the numbers, but I'm sure you can do it. So, I am showing you a couple of sets. This is called Simple Circles. And the Simple Circle set comes in 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4. All those sizes right there. So this is different. You have a 2-inch Simple Circle in your starter set, the Sampler Set 1. So this is 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4. And I'm going to use the 2.5 and the 3 and the 2 from my starter set. So where's my 2? Let's see, Simple Circle 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to find out, yep, that's going to work. So on here, I am going to start right at this point here. So what I did is I lined it up so my acrylic touches my line. So I'm putting it in this corner, touching that line. So I'm going to stitch around the circle. And I'm going to stop there. I'm going to take out the puzzle piece, and I'm going to get the next size smaller, which is a 2.5. And again, I'm lining this up here. I think I'm going to need to turn this way so you guys can see it. I'm lining this up so it's going again from corner to corner. And the reason I put that one in is I'm going to need it on the next one, the next size. So once I've got that, I'm going to open this one up. This is why I like to have a tape other than a Scotch tape, because that way it's stronger and it's holding those pieces. And then here's my 2-inch. And again, I'm lining it up back here. You can't see my finger, but it's back in the corner, and I'm lining it up right there.
You want to know what tape you're using? Let me see if I can find that.
You had it right there and was cutting for me.
I got it over here.
Okay, I'm using the R&K Embroidery Perfection tape, mainly because it doesn't leave any kind of a mess or anything. And it's very strong, and I use it for a lot of other things in sewing also. Okay, so at this point you could decide, do you want to do some sort of a line back to the center? Do you want to do a squiggle? Do you want to take a template? I'm just going to take a template, this arc template. Remember, I said nowhere does it really matter where it's going, and I am going to make it go right back to the center. And the reason I just did that is because it's just something for me to guide by, okay? Now what I need to do is measure. How far was that? If that's lucky, it's 1 inch. So it's a perfect inch out there. You can see it did a little bit of a curve, so it keeps it a little bit interesting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark a spot. I'm going to mark, and you can see this is, I don't know what I'm doing until I'm actually in the position of doing it. So after you get going, now I know while I'm here, I'm going to measure out my inch from that center, make this mark, and then mark it from there. Needle, not the foot, so I know where that center is going to be. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this one. So now that I've done it once, I know what I'm striving for. Because if you think we know everything ahead of time, I wish we could say we did, but we don't necessarily do that. So that kind of curved that way. So I'm going to use that same template, and where I want to stop is right there. So I'm going to use my spacing gauge, and I'm just going to kind of curve out to that spot, even though it almost looks like it's straight. Now, if you didn't want those lines, you could actually just do this and stop and tie it off. So I'm going to get my big circle first. Line it up, line it up.
Donna loves that your spacing gauge is colored. Can they get the colored ones as well?
I think they can. I think you can go on Sew Steady site and see. I think you might be able to. So now I'm going to travel back. I gotta think how I did that. This may not be the easiest thing in the world, we'll see. Guess we did it. And since it's not much of a curve, I'm just going to continue with straight lines. And it won't even show up any different. Honestly, I think if I was doing this, I would probably not put that straight line in there, but I don't know. It's nice not to have to stop and tie off a bunch of times.
Now you might have said this, I'm just curious, is there a reason you do the bigger circle and then size down?
Not necessarily, you could do it the other way. But once you get going on this, it goes pretty quickly, especially when you've got your gates still left open from the previous time, so I don't shut my gates. So like what she said, I could use this one first the next time. So we're going to go back to the center.
Kathy says they look like eyeballs.
Come out to that line. This time I'll do the small one first. And I have a whole set that goes down to little pebbles, so I could do a lot more, or I could do, you know, bigger jumps between them. I just thought these sizes looked pretty good this way. And this is a pretty cool design for those of you that have done template quilting. To have some layers, and then you can cut out the different layers on this. So that finishes that off, and I'll go right back to where I was. And to get right back so I can just cut that off, I will use my curve because I want it to be right on there. And you can see that I'm just going to cut it, but you could actually, so that's what that ends up looking like. So again, just something fun. You could have put them all going the same way if you wanted, and you know, reconfigure them so they actually this edge here touched this edge if you wanted to. Just, you know, I draw things out on paper. Obviously I didn't this one today, but that is one that, you know, is again fun to just see what you can do with your simple circles. So let's put it up here where you can see all of that. And like I said, you could leave this out. You could have even gone this way and made a square in there, just pretty much whatever you want to do. Now the last one I'm going to show you today is pretty easy, but at first it looks like it could be kind of difficult. So what I've done is I've drawn it out, and I'm going to recreate it so that I can show you how it actually starts. So I think you can see it over here. So you can see what that's like, and it looks like, oh my gosh, how in the world am I going to do this? I don't know what I can do to do that. So Megan, I think I have one more sheet somewhere. Do I have a one I can, how about we just flip one over or something, because I don't think I have 10 inches down here. Let me measure and see. Yeah, I do. We're good. All right, so I'm just going to use the edge of the one I've already got here, and I'm going to draw a 10-inch square. Now obviously you could do whatever size you wanted. 10 just worked well for what I was planning out. Sorry to be so quiet when I'm drawing, but
Somebody did comment, they like how you draw them out like this and you actually show everybody. So.
well, I learn by seeing. So you'll notice anytime I do instructions, there's a lot of pictures and a lot of drawings because I'm a learn by seeing person. Now what we're going to do to get this, so you can write this down. This is a 10-inch square. So I'm going to start over here and I'm going to make a mark at 1.5, 5, which is the middle, and 8.5. I'm going to rotate it and repeat it. Starting over here, 1.5, 5, 8.5. One and a half, 5, 8.5. One and a half, 5, and 8.5. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to do the square and the square. So that's just middle to middle to middle. So needle down, up, bring up our thread, put that back down, needle in place. And I can do that with my smaller ruler, but I don't think I can find my ruler. Here we go. Nope, it's just a bit too short. So I'll get my longer ruler. I'll get my camera down here so you can see it. And my spacing gauge. And I'm going to stitch from corner to, or from middle to middle to make a square and a square. Rotate. Measure. Now for those of you that might not have ever heard this, I set my machine to a medium speed and then I turn my foot control on the floor around to the back, and that way I just press it, floor it every single time. So you never hear the speed of my machine change. It's not revving up. It's not slowing down. It's always the same because that way it's pretty much creating my own little stitch regulator. Now, on this particular one, I do not have anything else coming from this point. So we're going to pull that thread up. And again, I've got to find the one to pull out. And we'll cut that. And we can tie those off later, get that out of our way. Because now what we're going to be doing is we are going to, it's kind of strange, okay? This measurement, if you remember, was 1.5 inches. And so I need to make a mark up here at 1.5 inches also. because what we're going to do is we are going to start in this spot, and it doesn't matter I start here or I start over on the other side. This one just seems to work real well. And so needle goes down. And we are going to be sewing back to that spot. Now I'm going to turn it around so that you can see what I'm doing, although I probably would have done it the other way. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm measuring right here. I'm going to stop when I touch the square. So I am...
And you touched when your needle got to the square, not
Needles
the foot
in
of
the
the
line.
machine.
Needles in the line.
Okay.
And then I'm turning this, and I need to get over to this, but I've got to figure out what's going to be straight. What is going to make this straight for me? So I can see here that that's 1 1/4 inches. So I'm just going to use my ruler, and I'm lining up right down here. Up here it's at 1 1/4 inches away from that, and down here it is. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to sew over until I touch, and then this is going to be 1 1/4 inches, and I'm coming right back down. Now again, I'm just going to cut that. You can see what I've got there. I'm going to start in this spot again. Let's get our 1 1/4 inches here. No, 1.5 inches. Whew, about messed that up. And I'm going to, just so we can get this done here, I'm not even going to pull the thread up because it's being held underneath because I cut the last one. That's just a feature of my machine. Obviously wouldn't do that in a regular project. Stitch to the line. Almost looks like the back of an envelope there, doesn't it? 1.25 inches is centered.
It does, doesn't it?
So I'm right down here at the bottom. It's 1.25 inches also. So I'm sewing to the line. Looks like I might be a little bit off there. Well, ever so little, so it's okay. All right, I'm just going to come around here on the line.
Yeah, once you erase those, you won't be off.
We're going to turn here. That's 1.5 inches. Remember, we're sewing, I'm doing this backwards, okay? I'm sewing here and I'm going across this way this time. Somehow it looks like I get farther off each time, but like she said, it won't look off when I'm finished.
I'm really curious how this is going to turn out.
Me too.
And I didn't even and looking at the pictures trying to figure it out, so.
I think I've done it right.
Oh, now I see which one you're doing. Okay.
I came back to the right spot, so I think I got it.
Yay, Linda just got her centering ruler today and all of her sew steady stuff last Thursday, so she's ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Dee agrees. He says this block is confusing her. I think once you see
I'll
it.
talk you through it again.
Yeah.
Okay. So now here's what we did. If you remember, it's a 10-inch square. And we went around and started in the right-hand corner and measured 1.5 inches, 5, and 8.5. And so these in the corner are 1.5 inch squares. Okay? And the first thing we did was connect all the centers. And so that gave us our stopping points here and here and here. So we started at that spot here, or you could start over here. Wish I had an iron so I could get that line gone. So there we, okay, and all you're doing is a rectangle. Now I went ahead and went across there because it was just an easier way to get there. So you started here at the 1.5 inches, went up until you touched the line of the square, and then you turned and went straight across here. Now how did you know what was straight across there? That was where you would have, oh, here's what I did. When I was doing that, I was measuring this with a line on here, because you can see, I think you can see that line on there is going to help me to know where to go. So if you wanted to, you could have backed off and said, okay, that line is 3.5 tall, and you could have come over here and measured 3.5 and got to that, which would probably been the better way. So you might want to say this is 3.5, but you wouldn't know that until you do this square. So again, it was 1.5 inches, 5, 8.5. Do the inside square, and then start and just make this rectangle. And it's only 3 sides of the rectangle. Turn and repeat. Turn and repeat. And that's what gives you that particular design.
This one would be really cool for template quilting, I think.
Oh yeah, you could, if you template quilted this, you would end up cutting out things and it would look like you pieced it together. Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I hope this has given you some ideas on how you can go out there and look on different sites, maybe get out on Pinterest, look at different places and see pictures. And I'll show you the one picture was simply, it looked just like this. I just found a picture that looked like that. And so that's how I came up with that particular design there. So a lot of things that you can do. I'm going to show you one more because that's just me. I got to have one more that I show you. And we're going to do it on this block. Megan's already drawn out. Are these 8.5?
Yes.
Okay. Then I can easily get this in a 4-patch. This one is so easy, and this would be a great one to start out with if you're, putting something together and you're just really wanting to get the hang of manipulation of pretty good sized pieces of fabric and that kind of thing. So I'm going to make this like this was a 4-patch. So we'll pretend that every other square is a different color. Or you can do whatever you want. So we're going to take, what did I just do with that? Probably think I'm making a 4-patch of 4 patches. That's what it looks like I'm doing, but I'm not. This would be a good place to use my mini crosshair squares.
Have left us, so it's super quiet in our studio right now.
So there's like 4 different squares, and if you wanted to use, let's see, honey, my spiral template, you guys. This will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clamshell here, and we're going to start. I'm definitely going to need that. I got to get that back there. We're going to start right here in the center of those 4. And tweezers. Foot down, needle back down, and I'm just going to use the clamshell on, oh no, it's not big enough. Well, let's see what I can use next. Too big. So if I can find my ruler, my straight edge arc would be perfect, most likely. There we go. Well, we're going to give it a try. Now the trick to this is a little bit more straight than I wanted. Maybe I'll try a different one next. We don't want to come back here yet. I had moved a little bit off center, so I wanted to get that back on there.
It's a real cute, simple design.
I'm going to try something else and see if I can get a bigger arc, though, on this next one. Because now that we're back to the center, you can see we've quilted that one completely. Let's see what this does. I'm wanting to be 1/4 inch. Oh yeah. So this is my 6-inch arc, so you could use your 6-inch spiral, the curve on the 6-inch spiral too. Oh yeah, I like it a lot better. Doesn't take much to excite me, ladies. It's the simple things in life.
Sandra wants to know, do you ever baste around the edge before you start?
Nope.
Would there ever be a need to baste around the edge?
If you didn't have it stabilized either with pens or I'm a spray girl, so when I get to my larger pieces I spray. And I use a lot of fusible fleece on wall hangings and runners and things like that, and that takes all of that hassle out of it. You can even get two-sided fusible fleece. When I'm teaching a class, that's what I put in the kits because it does take a lot of the hassle out of what you're doing. Oh, you guys, this is fun. This could be done on any size block. So these are like 4 1/4 inch blocks, but you could do any size block. Just get, you can see how big my template is. Just get a template that works. And remember, don't go back to the center until you've done all 4 of these. I think the hardest part for me is visualizing what things are going to look like. And so obviously I'm playing here, but if not, I would be using my stitching line discs and drawing them out. But a lot of times we think, oh, that quilt is done in blocks, so you know it's a very geometric, so I'm going to have to do geometric shapes. Well, that's not the case. I've seen, you know, mixing up all the time is what gives you the excitement in a quilt. And I always like to see what secondary designs develop. And you can see here, although this is not the right shape, this almost starts to look like a wedding ring going on there. And that's what's always fun when you see those secondary designs start happening. So if you got any questions, throw them out there for me because we're about done for today.
I don't know if I've got questions, but I got a lot of them that said that they're not going to be able to sleep tonight because they
Now
have all
you're
these
thinking,
ideas.
yeah, you're thinking what you can do with it. And I think that's the fun part of, you know, I think it's been, probably 3 months ago we did that one time where it was question and answer, and somebody sent me just a template that is a regular quilting template that you would, you know, use chalk and tamp it onto your quilt. And we just used templates that we had to try and figure out what we would do. And that's a good way to do it too. But I think once you start looking out there and you see that, oh, there's a lot of things that can be done with the templates that I already have, I just need to play around with them. I'm using this one, Megan. I've never done this one before.
Linda also says that she's seeing a cathedral windows design in that
Exactly. And you can see there, and that can be done in any size. And it's just a matter of drawing out whatever size square you want and then connecting things and remembering don't come back, because you're going to be able to do 4 at a time. Don't come back to the center until, you know, you're ready for your last one. So,
And what was the one that you eventually used? They want to know what the name
I
was.
ended up using the 6-inch arc. However, this is the one that I told you has the same shape as the 6-inch spiral that comes in your sampler set. So they don't look anything alike, but when you put this on top here, it's the same exact shape. Now what I will tell you is, I do use these lines on this, so if you wanted to invest in a 6-inch arc, it's definitely worth it, because you can see that I've got places here that I've got lines that I use at different times. So if you were doing this today, you got a 6-inch arc, you've got the shape that you need to do this little design right here. So again, you can see how that was quick and easy to do. Whenever I'm doing this, exactly, I'm going to tell you the particular spot that I found this in. They started in the middle here, and so they did every single one of those. And I'm like, no, I'm going to make it so I can do at least more than one. So I just came to the center and played with my finger oh, don't go there, go here, and then come back. And so you just have to remember, don't come back to this main center until it's the last one that you're going to do. So thank you guys. I appreciate your joining us today, and we'll see you next week.